Hello, this is Valerie and I am Neilan, and I want to talk about the sweater, the Vibes Tee and the Stripes of Joy sweater. And the Stripes of Joy sweater, not accurately because this is modified heavily, but this is my Stripes of Joy. The yarns I used in here are mostly so the blue, teal color, the first color, the second contrast color, this contrast color, and this contrast color are all from Urban Girl Yarns, and the brown is also Urban Girl Yarns. However, the other colors are all DK. This brown I used fingering weight held double. I'll try to remember the colors in just a minute. This green is actually from Leading Men Fiber Arts. And then this green is from why can I not? Adela. Lola Bean Yarn Company. That's her yarn. I did not follow the instructions for how wide to make the stripes. I mean, I started to and then messed up and then just kept doing what I was doing because it was just easier. The colorways, I don't remember this one. This one was in her, I want to say it was a music one. I can't remember who. This one is Kava. I think it's an excellent brown. If you need a brown, her Kava is pretty epic. This one is Semper Fi, which I just think is so amazing. This one is something pigeon. And then it just, I repeat a few of them. And the blue, I really cannot remember the name of the blue. It was 4 letters though, I think. Her DK is her Boston DK is the one that I got, and her fingering weight was her Virginia. If you get a chance to get her yarn, it knits up so beautifully. And she has different ones. She has some that are going to come out pooling, which I love a yarn to pool, but then I also love a yarn that's kind of speckled and doesn't pool. So I like having different yarns for different reasons. This sweater, the long sleeve sweater, or this tee, this is the Vibes Tee, are the 2 sweaters that we're going to be doing our make along in September. It's free. I have not woven in the sleeves. All the bodies woven in completely, but sleeves I just finished this morning. But the tee is called the Vibes Tee, VIBES, and the sweater is the Stripes of Joy. In order to join the make along, knit along, yeah, it's a knit along because we're knitting. We're only knitting, kitten. To join, I need you to either email me or direct message me on Ravelry. You can message me on Ravelry, you can message me on Instagram, or you can email. The email address is avisitwithnanaandpapa@gmail.com, and send a receipt for purchase of either pattern. And then if you don't want to come to the Zooms but you still want to make the sweater and you just want to participate, I still need to see that you have the pattern in order to be eligible for any prizes. I've decided that I'm going to donate a t-shirt amount of, I'm going to donate 3 skeins of one color to the winner. You won't be able to choose the colors because I'm literally going to pull the sweater quantity out of my stash and send it. This is another version that I did. I don't know that I followed the pattern in any way, shape, or form, but it's another striped sweater that I did. And this one I did in all browns, and I literally just pulled from stash. This one was completely knit from either fingering held double, or in this case, this section here was slub held with mohair. And I think there's one section that is straight up DK. But mostly it's 2 strands of fingering held double. Yeah. And it is one of my favorites, but it is really warm, so I wish I had had enough yarn to do the sleeves, but I did not. I used up just about everything of these leftovers, and they were, other than these 2 yarns right here, this one and this one, other than those 2, everything in here came from leftovers from a previous project. Oh, and the sleeves and the neckband, those are deep stash. It was a I want to say 80% cashmere, 20% silk, but it may have been 50-50 cashmere silk. I don't remember, but it was from I can't remember the name of the company, but I don't even think you can buy the yarn anymore, and I've had it in my stash for a very long time, at least since 2010, maybe even before that, but at least 2010. And but the rest just were leftovers from other projects. So if you want to use stash, you absolutely can. This one is knit in fingering weight, so you could, which I'm really thinking hard about it, about all of the mini stripes with the exception of the big stripe, which is the dark purple, having everything in here except the dark purple being from an advent, and then having the dark purple being a single skein, because I was able to do the whole tee with 100-gram skein, and I technically only used 83 grams, 84 grams of the 100-gram skein. So I'm thinking I might, because I'm pretty sure that here you could get by with the 20-gram skein, but I don't think you can get by with it on this one. I don't know, maybe, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stripes. 6 stripes, you would have to have at least lesson, and I have some left. So yeah, you could do the entire sweater from your minis during the holidays, if that's what you wanted to do, or leftover minis you still have from a previous. So if you're wanting to stash dive in that way and use up your minis, that's another option. What are some of the ways that you can use your yarn or pick your yarn in a way that will appeal to you or will look good. There are no rights and wrongs in this because it is stripes. If you want them all to be very similar colors, I striped this. I did not fade, I just striped it, but I striped it in, I'll put a picture of it here, but I striped it using colors from my stash and went from a very vibrant pink into oranges and yellows, then greens, then teals, then blue, then purple. And this purple here is the same purple that's at the bottom of the sweater. And then on the sleeves, I bound off with one of the greens so that it would just stay in the color where it landed. So, and you could use the Stripes of Joy pattern to make something this similar, or the 5C. The only thing is that it has specific spacing for your stripes, and we will go over in the zooms. I will go over how I was able to calculate this from my scraps. How many rows I wanted per stripe in order to get the full rainbow that I wanted to get using the yarns I had, and how I picked the yarns. We'll go over that as well. The only thing is that it has specific spacing for your stripes, and we will go over in the zooms. I will go over how I was able to calculate this from my scraps. How many rows I wanted per stripe in order to get the full rainbow that I wanted to get using the yarns I had, and how I picked the yarns. We'll go over that as well. But in here, I'll try to include some helpful tips when you're either shopping your stash or shopping at a store. And I think I'll insert that here. Hello, this is Editing Valerie, Editing Nana, and I just wanted to say that I'm going to put in right here some of my choices in the colors, just so that you can see. I was not able to pull out enough to do a scrappy because apparently I'm using up my scraps, which is not a bad thing. But I've been using enough leftovers that I don't have a lot of leftovers left, which is a good thing. So I'm going to show you what I was able to come up with here, and then we'll continue on with the video. Okay, well, we're back and we are going to look at some options. So this is one option I thought would be really good. This would be the widest yarn, and if I use this setup, because I have fingering weight but I have 100 grams each, it's very likely that I could get by with making the Stripes of Joy long sleeve in with this held double, because 2 skeins of fingering weight held double are very close to being the same amount of yarn as 2 skeins of DK or 2 skeins of worsted, because in this case it'd be DK, but this yarn has 328 yards per 100 grams, well, which this one has 400, so this is not the same, because this is a sport I didn't know I had a sport weight. That's new and different. We're going to pull this out of here and we are not going to consider it because I have another sport weight project that this would be absolutely perfect for. Alright, so this is Sequoia Sock, 400 yards. Sequoia Sock, 400 yards. And Sequoia Sock, 400 yards. And just so you know the colors, this is Dante, this is Katinka, this one is Motherland, and this one is Dream a Little Dream. I'm pretty sure this one is from, I know because Dante it's from Coco, but I'm pretty sure these are from Stranger Things. I've never seen Stranger Things. I just absolutely love these colors. So there's that. So this is still a very good possibility, but it would mean it would need to be in the fingering weight version. But still, and this I'm thinking should be that thin stripe of color. So there's very little of this throughout the tee, and this becomes the main. And that, I think then this should be the thinner stripe, this should be the thickest stripe, and this should be the thin stripe but also the ribbing. And I just think this would be stunning. Am I determined that's what I'm going to make? Absolutely not. It's just an option. Because that's not how I roll. So, okay, we're back. So, I just think this would make a really good combination. This yarn is super lightweight, so if I made it, it would be easy to wear here in Austin. And I could wear it year-round, which is appealing to me. And I am a sucker for teal. Now, if I don't make the teal, because I have a lot of teal and greens in my wardrobe already, there's another option, which you may have seen these colors before a time or two, but instead of making the previous project, I have these colors also from Holst. This is a iffy. I don't know if I want to use it, but it's a beautiful color. When you get up close and personal, you can see that it has so many different colors happening in it. But from far away, it kind of gets a little muddy, so you can't quite tell what color it is. But definitely these colors for my stripes, with this being just the thin stripe that's in the Vibes and Stripe of Joy. I think that this here would kind of be a color that, as it's gone, because then I can put a pink, blue, purple, pink, blue, purple. Anyway, and I have enough colors here in just 50-gram cakes that I could really test out whether it will look good as a striped tee in minis at during Advent. And I have already set aside my Advent for making a sweater during Advent, and I will probably bring you along as I work on that tee. But that tee will not be using any pattern that is a paid for pattern. I will be using strictly a free pattern so that I can discuss it on here. So I now would want to, if I really wanted to check stark contrast, I would want to pull these yarns with a photo and double check whether they have sharp enough contrast. Now, I can tell you without even taking a photo that these three here, are not going to be enough different And these, and maybe even this one, definitely are not going to be enough different. And if I put these two together, they absolutely would not be significantly different. You can even look at them and see that there's not a huge difference. Not a big variation. But I don't, if I go with these colors, my point isn't huge, sharp contrast necessarily, but just playing around with these colors. Even these two are not the same color. They may appear slightly the same color, but they are definitely distinctly two different shades. But from a distance, if you back up far enough, you can kind of, doesn't really look that different. So, but the use of these, I think, could really create a beautiful picture. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure which route I'm going to take. If you have any opinions, let us know. Thanks, and have a great day. And going through my leftovers, the only thing that really came out to me is not leftovers, but these are yarns that were previously, well, the light green and the darker green, kind of a medium green. Those two are definitely leftover. They're extra yarns. But the two other things of yarn, those were set aside for other projects that I didn't end up doing, or I ended up not using that yarn. So I just think, I mean, look at this next to that. That's just so good. But even if I break it up and put it needs the greens, because this green next to this green, you can't really tell, but they are definitely different. This one is much lighter and this one is darker, but they're in the same family, and that even shows it more accurately. So I just think breaking up the brights by the cool tones of the green, even though those greens are pretty warm toned greens, I think that's going to be a really great option. This yarn is from the Toad Hollow, the ladies at Crafty Toads, Toad Hollow yarn. And then this is my favorite green, which is from Stranded Dye Works in the colorway Thrive, leftover from my last Vibes tee. This is, I don't remember the colorway, but this is from Not Gathering Yarns, that's their yarn shop, at Haynes House Yarns. And this is a BFL 150 gram skein that I dyed myself in pink. And so, yeah, this is actually a real contender for several reasons. One, I'm thinking of making a sweater for my granddaughter, and I think this might be a combo that she would appreciate. But also, even if it was for me, I would definitely wear it because pink and green make me happy. But the biggest reason, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way, this is already caked up. It's already in, ready to be knit, and why not? Just go with what you've got ready to go. I'm not saying that this is what I will choose. I'm just saying this is a definite hefty contender. I will pop in some photos at some point showing y'all the original colors as I showed you to them and the black and white so that you can see the difference. In this case, because I'm striping, I'm not concerned that there isn't high contrast. I actually kind of like the fact that there isn't, but there you go. And if I do this, this definitely would be the very thin stripe. This would be the primary stripe. This would be the next thinnest, and this would be the next to biggest. So it would be mostly this color, and then this mostly with a little bit of this and a really tiny bit of that. And I just think that that combo will be amazing. So we'll see. Let me know what you think of all the other options. If you're wanting something like I did here, you wanted sharp contrast so that the stripes are clearly stripes. But if I had taken out, if I had enough yarn and had taken out these colors and just kept these colors, I could have faded those into each other without issue. Or I could have possibly taken the solids and been a little, or that one's more of a semi, but it's been a little more intentional with those. But I intentionally broke them up because I wanted to have it clearly striped. What do you need to have for the KAL? Because you have it in a sweater, you will need a 16-inch circular needle, and if it's interchangeable, which is my preference, you will need just a larger cord. I tend to just use a 22 or 24-inch cord depending on manufacturer, and that's sufficient for me. But there are some other people who want a 30 something or 40 something depending on their size, so that they don't like their stitches bunched up. I prefer my stitches to be all bunched up and just flowing right off the needle. That makes me happier. So you need that. You would need a darning needle. The needle size, the patterns have their own needle size that's recommended. I will tell you that if you have a favorite yarn that you have in your stash and you know what needle you like to use with that, absolutely come to the first session, because I'm going to talk about how to take your yarn and your gauge and take this pattern and knit it in the yarn you want. So if you prefer to knit it in worsted weight, absolutely bring your yarn, bring the needle that you tend to use. The pattern does call for ribbing, so if you do want your top of the neckband to be in ribbing, I would recommend going down at least one, if not two needle sizes. I would say the going down the needle size depends on where you're at. To go from a US 9 to a US 8 is an entire millimeter. So going down one size there, that's sufficient typically. But if you're using a US 4, going from a US 4 to a US 3, you're only changing sizes by 0.25 millimeter. And so you may want to go down 2 or 3 just so that you're actually getting a sufficient amount of change between the stitches in your ribbing and the stitches in your stockinette. Now, you could be one of those miraculous people that blow my mind and my hat is off to you, and you can knit your ribbing and your stockinette and the stitches come out exactly the same. Clearly I need more practice because mine do not, and maybe more training, who knows. I am going to knit another sweater in stripes. I am going to make it in blue. I already have the yarn set aside. I will probably be winding that yarn up in the next week or two, even though it's not time to start, because I plan on doing videos ahead of you, and we'll have our Zoom, and then I will post a tutorial, and then we'll have another Zoom, and then I'll post. So I want to go over things, and then I'll post a video. If what we went over in Zoom wasn't clear, you can go back and rewatch the tutorials. That should help you. Those tutorials will not be public. They will only be available in the emails being sent. So whether you DM me or not, in order for me to send you those tutorials, you would have to provide me an email. I will not be posting them in Ravelry. I will not be posting them on Instagram. And I'm not going to make them available. And the reason being is I do not want to violate any copyright whatsoever for Tiff Neilan. Her patterns are amazing. They're great for a new person, new to knitting, but I do not want to even accidentally give information that I shouldn't, which is why I am requiring proof of purchase for either the Vibes Tee or the Stripes of Joy. Additionally, I'm going to try very hard not to go over any stitch counts whatsoever, nor any specific row counts that she has in her pattern, because you should have her pattern. You'll have a receipt that you're sending me, and then you should have it. But I just want to make sure that I'm not giving any secret sauce from her away to anyone. Then what else? I feel like there's more. I'm now going to insert a video of me going through, there'll be two, but they'll probably flow in, but two different things. I'm going to video, and I haven't done it yet, so it'll be added after, but I'm going to put out some yarns that I would be interested in using in this sweater, and there's yarns that I'm just not sure, and I'm gonna photograph them, and then I'll show you me putting them out. I won't be able to video the taking the photo, but I'll put the photo in the video when I do my editing, so that you can see, okay, so she pulled these out, she took the photo, she made it black and white, and then what does that tell her? Is it what she wants? Is it not what she wants? There is no right or wrong here. That if you would rather knit this entire sweater in one color and you don't want to use any stripes, that's fine. The only reason I picked these patterns as a first sweater is because stripes keep you from getting bored. If you're changing colors, it's fun, it's exciting, it's entertaining, and you're not getting bored because you're changing colors. Like, oh, one more row and I can change colors. Oh, one more row and I can change colors. It really does make it a lot more fun to get through this sweater. Depending on gauge, a sweater is not that much more stitches than socks, because you have to make two socks. You have 72 and 72, or 64 and 64. So 64 and 64, that's 128 stitches. Depending on your size and your gauge, you're not hugely different. For me though, I tend to knit fingering weight and lots more stitches, but I still find making sweaters just as much fun, or actually I enjoy them a lot more. After you'll have already, at this point you should have already seen the video on picking colors in the stores or picking yarns from your stash. Now we're going to go over, what if I just want to use my scraps? I want to use my leftovers. How do I plan that? Well, in making this t-shirt, I used approximately 82 grams of the main color, or the most used color. I used approximately 70 grams, 68, 70, I don't have a digital scale, of the light color. Of the green, I used around 60 grams. And the reason I used more is because it's on the hem. It's here. It's the longest, almost the longest here. And then it also is the bottom ribbing of the sweater. So I used a little bit more of the green in that way. And then this light purple, I don't even know that I used 20 grams. It was a leftover when I started it, and I think I have 50% of that leftover still there because I did not. It's 3 rows, and I did it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, shouldn't have told you rows, but it's not a lot of that one color. And if you're using your scraps, you could absolutely less than 20 for each stripe. Now, how many stripes do you knit in the pattern? It varies. It has a specific number of stripes. I would tell you or recommend that you measure from the back of the neck down to where you prefer for your sweaters to fit on the back, because it's just easier that way. Measure that distance. Then once you have measured that distance, you're going to know how many inches you want your sweater to be. And in the pattern, it's going to give you a gauge for rows. And that'll give you an idea of how many stripe repeats you want. And then if you decide, you know what, I want to modify my stripes just a little bit, you absolutely could do that. You just have to be careful during the increase round that you put your increase rounds where they go. Because if you put them somewhere, like if you keep them where they're at, but you change how many rows between them, you could skew how the sweater fits. It's still gonna have a little bit of fabric here, but I don't mind. I think it's fine. It's comfortable for me to wear. My arms have free movement, and it's light and airy, and I wear them all the time. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any. Oh, so I'll add that video here. I might cut some of this out. Okay, now that we have gone over how to pick yarns in a local craft store, how to pick yarns from your stash, how to pick yarns from your scraps, the other option is picking yarns from a store, a yarn store, or an independent dyer. I would reach out if you're not sure. I know there's so many dyers that if you reach out to them, I'm willing to bet money that if Nancy from Trilogy Yarn got an email or a direct message on Instagram that said, I'm trying to join Valerie's knit along for the Stripes of Joy and I just don't know what colors to put together and I'm a pink girl, she would probably tell you, well, these colors would make really good stripes in that sweater. Or if you reached out to a yarn shop like Gathering Yarns, of course she's also a dyer, but reach out to her, she'd probably tell you. I know if you call the local shop here in Round Rock, or not in Round Rock, in Austin, the Hill Country Weavers, and you talk to just about any of them, but if you say, hey, I'm trying to do the Stripes of Joy or the Vibes Tee by Tiff Neilan in a knit along, and I need help finding 4 DK yarns. I need 1 skein of, I don't know how many DKs. I think in the Stripes of Joy, I believe that you need 2 skeins of your main color and 1 of the other 4 or 5 skeins. I'm not certain because I can't remember exactly how many were required for what. But I would just reach out to wherever you want to or would like to order from, or if you just have, hey, they have this kit, especially if you have a 4 skein shawl kit that's 4 different colors, you already have a kit in your stash. If there's a kit that you've been jonesing over for a 4-skein shawl, buy it and make the tee, because it totally will work. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can ask them down below. You can email, you can direct message. Again, the KAL is going to start on September 2nd, and we will meet for 1 hour each week through the end of October at a minimum. If we need to meet a couple times in November, we will. I am also available for, you can reach out to me if you have questions, or if you want a one-on-one lesson because you're struggling with the instructions, then absolutely just DM me or email me and say, hey, I need some help. I'm stuck on this. And we'll schedule a one-on-one Zoom and we'll figure it out together. I promise if you stick with it, you will knit your first sweater. I promise. Anyway, thank you so much and have an awesome rest of your day. Take care.